The single most important thing I want to share with you today is dog well-being. I want to show you how to avoid giving cancer and leptospirosis to your dog by mistake. Research has revealed 10 ways that thousands of dog owners unsuspectedly cause their fur babies to get crippling diseases. That's not right. I'm sure you agree with me. Tune in today and learn something. I bet your cutie pie will thank you. For real. Hello. Welcome back, folks, to another edition of Sweetie Kiwi. I'm very happy that you are here with us today. I hope you are doing marvelous. Are you? Are you? I'm sure you are. So if you are feeling marvelous, grab a cup of coffee or tea or vodka and let's roll. Today I want to talk to you about 10 damaging ways that pet owners cause their dog to have cancer and leptospirosis without realizing it, right? The risks are very high, and unfortunately, sometimes they lead to acute morbidity and or death. To understand the risk, we'll first talk about leptospirosis. Then we'll converse about canine cancer. Afterwards, I'll share with you the 10 ways that science says that dog owners give cancer and leptospirosis to their fur babies by mistake. We'll finally identify, and this is very important, you don't want to miss that part, we will identify the breeds that are more at risk. Research has shown that, like humans and other mammals, some dog breeds have stronger genes than others and are thus better positioned to fight off cancer, leptospirosis, and other conditions. We want to pay more attention to the weaker links, right? The weaker dogs, the more fragile, the more sensitive canine breeds. But before we really jump into the subject, I just want to give a big shout out to our fans and listeners and viewers all over the world. Specifically today, we're giving a shout out to Race Jackson in Frontier, North Dakota, Bailey Wilkinson in Tysick, North Dakota, and Jasmine Butler in Lead, North Dakota. We love you. Thank you so much for the support. Thank you for the suggestion. We know we bless your families. We have good intentions for your families, good thoughts for your families. Thank you so much, and keep loving your pets. So, I want to first start with leptospirosis in dogs and kind of give a quick overview of what the disease is. It is an infectious disease, and it causes serious illness in dogs, animals, and people, by the way. The disease is actually caused by spiral-shaped bacteria called Leptospirosis, and those bacteria live in water, wet soil, or warm soil, by the way. And initial signs of leptospirosis include lack of appetite. Some dogs display fever, lethargy. And if the disease is left untreated, it can develop into a more severe, fatal, life-threatening illness that affects everything from the heart to the kidneys, to the liver, to the lungs, to the brain. Now, canine leptospirosis really has increased in recent years. I mean, this is nothing new. In the last 5 years, research has shown that as many as 15% of dogs are shedding leptospirosis, and sometimes they do so asymptomatically. In other words, you the owner, you don't see the symptoms, but they are actually shedding those bacteria. So there are a lot of causes. You have things like environmental changes, you have habitat encroachment, stress, population growth, weather changes. All those things have increased canine exposure to pathogens and their carriers. Of course, humans also have increased their exposure as a result of those factors. Now, leptospirosis can enter the body through mucous membranes in the nose, in the eyes, in the mouth, and they can also enter the skin through abraded or water-softened skin. The interesting thing to remember here is that when they get once they are into the body, they enter the body, the metabolic space, they multiply. They tend to multiply in the host animal bloodstream, right? So and they move from the bloodstream to the kidneys and other tissues to continue reproducing. So it is really an area of bacteria that are very strategic in basically being a parasite in the host body by multiplying. And they also pass from the kidneys into the urine, and then they are shed back into the environment. That's the cycle that they go to. Now, a lot of other dogs, wild animals, or people, by the way, because the owners can also be infected through direct or indirect contact. Now, the clinical signs are very various here, but research has shown that things like the dog will start having respiratory distress. Sometimes you see blood in urine. This can occur even though it's not always common. You have acute renal failure. This is a big one. This is a very important one. You have depression. The pet is really having some kind of apathy. You have anorexia, weight loss, sudden weight loss. It has been shown to be prevalent in the canine population infected by by the bacteria. You also have fever sometimes, and you have some kind of abdominal discomfort. Vomiting is common as well. Diarrhea. All those things cause the dog to feel really weak, and those are signs that, of course, are common, but depending on the breed you have, you might have other symptoms. The most important thing is to remember that this show is for information only. We are giving you an overview of the pathogens that are there that might actually affect your canine cutie pie. The most important thing is if you want to have more details, more information, it's always good to contact a specialist, a vet, who would spend more time on your pet and really give you a good and sound tip as to the overall well-being of your pet. We'll be right back right after this. Welcome back, folks, to another section of Sweetie Kiwi. We are very happy to have you today. I hope that you are finding this content so useful so far. If you do, please don't forget to share this with someone. If you have a pet owner, if you own a pet yourself, please share the info. We are always interested. If this can save a pet, if this can save someone's life, it is very important. Please share, comment, like, and subscribe. Right? Did we say subscribe? Yeah. Please, why not? Subscribe. Now, I've been talking about the risk of infection here and the clinical signs. I want to talk to you now about the dogs that are at risk, because again, certain breeds are more at risk than others. So the dogs that may develop leptospirosis faster include those that have access to ponds, lakes, standing water, streams, dogs that have exposure to urine from other infected animals. This is very important, and those infected animals include wildlife, right? You have rodent, you have raccoons, you have opossum, you have deer, and this contact can happen through either direct contact with the urine or through contaminated water. Another exposure to urine might come from other dogs in shelters or other pet care facilities, right? Anytime you have some kind of mingling, some kind of interaction with dogs that are sick, your dog or your pet might actually catch this disease. Now, in terms of morbidity, in other words, in terms of what's the risk that the disease can cause to your dog, morbidity threats are diverse. Now, as leptospirosis progresses, it can really result in a series of things. The first thing that you can have here is severe kidney and liver damage, because again, we talked earlier about how the bacteria sort of take possession of the bloodstream and multiply like crazy, right? So, and this can really sort of counter the metabolic functions of the canine body under normal conditions. So severe kidney and liver damage can results from things like acute renal failure, can occur in dogs that have severe clinical signs. Sometimes you also have acute hepatic dysfunction or chronic hepatitis that have been caused by specific serovars. So what's really happening here is that you can have severe kidney and liver damage coming from the multiplication of the bacteria inside the host body. Another morbidity threat that you can have when the dog is under attack is vascular damage. So the sort of fancy word, scientific word for it is called thrombocytopenia. Please don't make fun of me. I only took what? How many classes did I take in biology? I think I took only 2 or 3 classes. So let me come again. So the other morbidity threat is called thrombocytopenia or vascular damage, and this can lead to kidney failure. It can interfere with other metabolic functions, specifically liver function. Sometimes this can trigger coagulatory abnormalities and other issues. The third morbidity threat that science has discovered is something called leptospiremia. Now, this means that Leptospirosis, the bacteria, they can multiply in the bloodstream and spread to many tissues and organs. This is very scary, right? So not only they are multiplying in the bloodstream, they are spreading really, like taking possession of other tissues and organs. A little bit like cancer tumors, right? So this is where things become a little complicated, and you want to pay attention to how your dog's condition is progressing so far. Now, in terms of spreading disease, the disease once a dog has it, or once your dog has it, it's really important to understand how the disease can be spread so that you can stop it. Now, this thing is very important, and like I said, sometimes as a pet owner, we cause our dogs to have, or we expose our dogs to leptospirosis risks without realizing it. So it is important to really pinpoint the causes, the threats, how the disease is spread, to really understand those things. So from today on, all pet owners, because that's the goal of this program, all pet owners can be more aware of the risk, can be more aware of the conditions under which their canine cutie pie might catch a very sort of crazy and weird disease called leptospirosis. So when you have there's something called leptospiruria. Now, this is a urinary shedding, so the dog is constantly peeing, right? And the dog can't really hold it. So when you have this sort of leptospiruria, the infected dogs can enter a carrier state. So what happens here is that the dog becomes a carrier of the bacteria, and organisms may persist in the kidney and be shed in the urine for weeks to months. So what's happening is, if you remember earlier, I talked about leptospiremia, where the leptospirus can multiply in the bloodstream and then spread to many tissues and organs like cancer. Even though this is not a good analogy, I don't want to use that here, but you get the picture, right? The picture here is that there is an army of bacteria that is taking the body or parts of the body as hostage, right? So going back to leptospiruria, the urinary shedding, the infected dog is becoming a carrier, and the organism, those bacteria, are persisting in the kidney, and they can be shed in the urine when the dog is peeing. Those bacteria can be shed in the urine for weeks to months. This is why earlier I was talking to you about the fact that if your dog goes to a shelter and is exposed to a dog who is infected, your dog can get that infection really, really fast. It is very important, before we sort of close this section, to understand that humans can also become infected from direct or indirect contact here with this leptospirus that was shed in the environment. So I do have a friend a couple of years ago who loves camping. He loves camping, and he camps, I think, once a quarter, once 3 or 4 times a year. And he caught that. He caught Leptospirosis because I guess somehow he camped somewhere where there was an infected dog or animal, that peed there. And basically, he caught that. So other dogs, wild animals, and humans can become infected from direct or indirect contact with this Leptospirosis. Now, let me just kind of ask you, what is your experience with this Leptospirosis? Have you ever experienced your dog getting infected or other similar diseases? Comment in the comment section, share your experience with us, share your experience with the Sweetie Kiwi community through let's spread the wealth, the intellectual wealth, so that people don't make any the same mistake. And of course, I'm always going to ask you, I know you know what it is. Comment, share, like, subscribe. I want you to smash that sub button, and the good thing is that if you do, we're going to keep providing you positive, great, uplifting content that can allow you to live a better life. And also from time to time, just make sure your cutie pie, canine cutie pie, is doing fantastic. We will be right back right after this. Hello folks, welcome back to another section of this Sweetie Kiwi show about dogs and Leptospirosis and cancer, how pet owners cause their pets to have cancer and Leptospirosis without realizing it. Now, we talked about in the first section about Leptospirosis. Now, I want to talk quickly about cancer in dogs. It is very important because before I tell you the 10 ways you are causing your cutie pie to have cancer and Leptospirosis, we need to understand what those two diseases are. Everybody hears about cancer in the news media, but what is really cancer, specifically canine cancer? So the risks are high, and unfortunately, sometimes they lead to acute morbidity and death. So to understand the risk, we talked about Leptospirosis. Now let's talk about cancer. And as I said earlier, I will share with you afterwards the 10 ways that science says dog owners give cancer and Leptospirosis to their fur babies by mistake. Now, I have a pro tip that you don't want to miss, because this pro tip will just change your life, literally. And I think that a lot of people would like to have this sort of tips, because it is just when you have a pet, when you have a dog or a cat, this wonderful creatures are part of the family, and there are ways to really reduce the stress that is associated with grooming or taking care of a pet. And I will give you a wonderful pro tip. Don't miss out, stick around. Now, what are the common causes of cancer? Not causes, common types. Let's talk about types of cancer in dogs first. There are many cancer types in dogs, I believe, as in humans, right? Now, everybody knows that cancer is caused by what? It's caused by the uncontrolled growth of cells in the body, right? So the cells can originate from any part of the body, and they can originate in any of the body's tissue. Now, the thing is, if those cells are not found and stopped in time, those cancerous cells will expand, right? And they will connect with the lymph system, the circulatory systems, and then they will spread and infect other tissues, sort of analogous to what we were discussing earlier about Leptospirosis. Now, the canine cancer, science has shown, and a lot of news media have reported on this already, that canine cancer is the leading cause of death for dogs that are 10 years of age or older. So if you have a dog who has passed 10 years of age, chances are there is a high likelihood that certain cancer at some point might develop. So, but the good news is, because there is a good news, I'm not here today just to give you bad news here. Actually, I'm not even here to give you any bad news. So the good news, what's the good news? What's the good news? What's the good news? The good news is that half of all cancer in dogs is treatable. And it is treatable if it is stopped in its early stages. Let me repeat that. Half of all cancer in dogs is treatable if it is arrested, if it is treated, if it is caught in its early stages. So prevention, as in human cancer cases, is essential, right? It's actually quintessential, not essential, quintessential. So let's just quickly look at the most common types of cancer in dogs. You have something called, now again, please forgive my pronunciation. I was skipping classes in biology 101. So we have something called Heme Angiosarcoma. So it's Heme Angiosarcoma. So basically, this is something that is quite common in dogs. You have some breeds are more exposed to it. So you have the golden retrievers. We'll talk about golden retrievers very later in the program. German Shepherd also exposed to it. So basically, Heme Angiosarcoma is an incurable tumor of cells. Now, what they do is they line blood vessels that are called endothelial cells. Now, dogs of any age or breed are susceptible to this Heme Angiosarcoma disease, but it really occurs more in middle-aged or old dogs. Going back to what I said earlier about cancer being the leading cause of death for dogs 10 years of age and older. So we see this here, that basically this Heme Angiosarcoma, there is a possibility if the dog is 10 years or older that he or she will have it. We also have another type of cancer, which is called mast cell tumor. Now, the mast cell tumors are immune cells that are responsible for things like allergies and occasional discomfort. So you see the dog sweating, the dog actually unable to sleep, the dog being allergic to things in the environment, to food, to smell, to all kinds of stuff. So mast cells are actually usually found in all tissues of the body, but typically they form tumors on the skin in about 20% or 25% of the dog population. So it's you can have cases that are extremely aggressive or cases that are benign, right? So the most important thing is that, again, prevention is very important, and you have to look at the specific breed that you have, because certain breeds are at an increased risk of catching this tumor than others. For instance, boxers are prone to this type of cancer. The third type of cancer is lymphoma. Now, lymphoma can affect any breed. This is the 99-cent store sort of version of a cancer because this form of cancer can affect any breed at any age. And most of the time, usually it appears as swollen glands in the lymph nodes, and you can actually see them or feel them if you touch around your dog's neck, sometimes in front of the shoulders or behind the knee. Let me repeat that. So you can actually check those around the neck, in front of the shoulders, or behind the knee. Now, I'm not telling you to transform yourself into a vet, but I'm just saying that those are things you can try. Of course, the recommended path here is to see a specialist, right? I will always emphasize that this is a general information program. If your particular situation, your pet's particular situation can only be treated, can only be reviewed and mitigated by a specialist. So where was I? Oh yeah, lymphoma. So the next type is osteosarcoma. Now, I think we have a lot of sarcoma here, but osteosarcoma is as the word implies, osteo stands for bone. So it's actually a common type of primary bone cancer in dogs. And usually what research has shown is that 85% of tumors actually originate in the skeletal system. So It affects usually as osteoporosis, which is the human condition. It affects older and larger dogs. So you're talking about the giant dog breeds, and it can affect the dogs that are basically of any size, the dogs that are basically of any size. One of the things that I also want to say here, which is very important, is that the bones that are affected in osteosarcoma can also be around the shoulder, the knee, and the wrist. So a major symptom that you see here is lethargy, is lameness in the affected dog, in the affected part of the body, in the affected leg. Or sometimes you have some kind of swelling around the area. There are other cancer types. You have brain tumors that cause epileptic-like seizures in the dogs. You have bladder cancer, which is also a biggie when it comes to dog cancer. You have mammary carcinoma. Mammary carcinoma really affect female dogs, and you can, I guess the root mammary says it all already. So this is non-spayed female dogs are at high risk for developing aggressive mammary tumors. What's really important to remember here is that it's not just non-spayed female dogs, right? All female dogs, regardless of reproductive state, they remain at risk. Now, approximately 1/2 of these tumors are aggressive, and the dog has to undergo surgery, and complete surgical removal is the surest way to arrest the progress of the disease. But that's if the cancer has not metastasized, right? Because you have to, that's going back to what I said earlier, you want to catch it at the beginning. The next thing we have is malignant histiocytosis. Malignant histiocytosis. Now, this affects the larger sports breeds most often, and you see some kind of lesions around the brain, in the subcutaneous, in the skin, the bone marrow, lung, lymph nodes, spleen, and you have the periarticular tissue of large appendicular joints. Now, this is just a lot of fancy words to say, listen, if your dog is a sports breed and your dog is a larger breed, pay attention. You want to take those things into consideration and talk to your vet and bring the dog to a specialist. Now, there is no therapy for this form of cancer, which means, unfortunately, if left untreated, if not caught earlier, this could lead to death. We also have squamous cell sarcomas. What did I just say? Sarcomas. That's really not the right pronunciation here. Squamous cell carcinoma. This kind of cancer here is found most often in the mouth and in the nail beds of the toes. So it is very important, again, to go back to detection here. When you have complete surgery, if you want to have complete surgical removal, which is the appropriate path here, you want to detect this early. The thing is, fewer than 1/4 of dogs develop this sort of disease, and it's very important to look around the tonsil and the tongue to remove that. Otherwise, it can be very aggressive. Another type of cancer that we've seen, research has shown when it comes to dog cancer, is mouth and nose cancer. Now, this is very common, folks. This is very common. This is nothing new. We've known this for the last 50 years. Pet insurance companies have known this. You see this, the mouth and nose cancer happening a lot, but more so in the mouth and the nose. Now, symptoms are diverse, right? You have a mass on the gums. You have bleeding, excessive bleeding. You have some kind of strong smell or difficulty eating. So the dog is having problems just digesting food or even having appetite. So a lot of the swellings are malignant, right? They are aggressive. They are early. They are sometimes they spread in the body. Aggressive treatment is essential. It is important because if the swellings is aggressive, the treatment must also be aggressive, right? So the cancer can also be seen inside the nose of dogs, and that's where sometimes you see things like facial swelling. You see the dog really having facial, his or her face being like crazy swollen. He or she is having difficulty breathing. You see bleeding from the nose. This is another sign of cancer here. We have melanoma. Melanoma really is the type of cancer that occurs mostly in, as the root name implies, melanin. It developed in canines that have dark skin. So melanomas arise from pigment producing cells that are called melanocytes, and those melanocytes are responsible for coloring the skin. So you can see this sort of melanomas in various areas of the skin. It can be the small dark lumps, but they can also appear as very large wrinkled or flat masses. Now, malignant melanoma, which develops sometimes in the mouth or in the distal limbs, and those are usually the toenail beds, it is an incurable disease, unfortunately. So going back to what we said earlier, prevention is the most important path here, because these tumors, they often spread to distant part of the body. So when they are spreading so much into the body, when they sort of start crippling the metabolic functions of your dog, complete surgical removal becomes impossible, because the only way you want to do this is to really sort of kill the pet, and nobody wants that, right? So again, going back to what I said earlier, prevention is important. The last type of I know this has been a long list of cancer, but we need to know what kind of cancers are out there, right? We have to know. So testicular cancer is the sort of cancer that you see sometimes in dogs that have retained testes. So they are unneutered dogs with retained testes, and this sort of cancer is predominantly, it is significantly preventable. We can prevent it with neutering, and all you got to do is just neuter your pet. So, and it's curable through surgery also, if you can arrest it very early in the disease process. Now, I just want to ask you, because we're always interested in having positive and great feedback from the audience. Have you seen, or does your dog currently have cancer, or have you had a dog who has cancer in the past, and how did the disease, what type of cancer did the dog have, and what kind of treatment did he or she go through? And just share your comments, share your insight with the Sweetie Kiwi community. We want to learn more about those things, and I'll be right back right after this. Welcome back, folks, to another edition of Sweetie Kiwi. We are in another section of this wonderful show, and I'm just enjoying this show. I hope you are enjoying it too, right? Are you? I hope you are. I want to quickly talk about, we had a long list in the past section. We had a long list of all the cancers that affect our canine cutie pies. Now it's kind of important to sort of pinpoint the symptoms and signs of cancer in dogs, because again, going back to what I said earlier, you need to know those symptoms and signs so that you don't cause your dogs to have cancer by mistake. Now, there are two types of signs of cancer in dogs. Now, some signs are very easy to spot, and others are just completely difficult. They're just crazy difficult. You got to go to a specialist, right? And the signs of dog cancer depend greatly upon a lot of factors, right? So you have, I'm going to give you a list. Of course, this list is not exhaustive, but it just kind of gives you a snapshot of the factors that can be precursors, or can be signs that something is not right, and then you got to take action. Now, you have things like pain, right? if the dog is having pain, you have evidence of pain, right? He or she's not as agile as he or she was a few weeks, months ago. You see lethargy. You see some kind of depression going on. If there are changes in bathroom habits, that could also be a cause of concern. If you see a change in appetite, if you had a dog who was a big eater and all of a sudden he or she becomes, a small eater, that's very a cause of concern. Coughing, difficulty breathing can also be a cause of concern. Now, sometimes if you observe your pet, right, during grooming, for example, I hope you're grooming your pet. Are you? Okay. Please reassure me that you are grooming your pet. So if you groom your pet and you realize that there are some non-healing wounds, if you have some sores, those could be signs of some underlying metabolic dysfunction. And that could be sometimes cancer. You just want to check it out. It's very important. So if you have sudden and irreversible weight loss, I hope your pet is not on diet. Your pet is not on keto diet or Plato diet or any kind of diet. So if you see abdominal swelling, if you see some kind of abnormal or irregular smell that emanate from the ear, the mouth, any other part of the body, if you see lumps and bumps underneath the dog's skin, all this area of factors or symptoms could be precursors to cancer, and you want to take action quickly. Now, if you see this, it is very important. Again, don't try to reinvent the wheel. Don't go on the internet Googling symptoms. What does this mean? My dog can't poo. My dog can't eat. What does that mean? No. Because again, this is the kind of behavior that leads a pet owner to cause cancer to his or her dog by mistake. The first step here is to always be on the cautionary side, to always be on the risk averse side. And the risk averse side here is to contact a specialist ASAP. Now, there's one thing you need to know about tumors in dogs, because that's kind of important too. The thing is that tumors in dogs they sort of use a very weird pathway. They usually appear as fleshy at the beginning, and they might be fleshy, but what you see solid lumps of tissue beneath the skin or fur. And not all tumors will be seen right away. In other words, they're not outwardly evident. They're not obvious. You can't just see them. Sometimes you can see evidence of tumors. Sometimes you don't see them. Sometimes it can be deep within the body of the dog. What's very important here is that early detection and treatment are quintessential to stabilizing or improving or even preserving your dog's health and well-being. So this is why it is a lot of vets and healthcare specialists and even pet insurance providers, they recommend that owners periodically inspect their canine cutie pie for any abnormal lumps and keep some kind of quarterly or semi-annual vet appointment schedule. And that's very key. I'll talk about that more in the other sections of this show, but it's very important to kind of have this sort of checkup, this appointment schedule. Now, a lot of dog owners really you usually find a tumor in their dog while bathing or petting, right? I talked earlier about grooming. So if you run your hand over any part of your dog's body and you feel a lump, you want to make an appointment ASAP. Because what will happen here is that the vet will probably take a needle aspirate to get the cells from the tumor and get a complete diagnosis. Because what you want to have, if you want to have a serenity and peace of mind, is very important for the specialist, the vet, to perform the kind of operation to get a complete diagnosis. Now, the diagnosis is very important and is very helpful because it can help you determine, it can help the specialist determine what kind of follow-up cancer care is necessary. So the another thing you want to also remember is that some tumors in dogs they cannot be visualized. You can't see them unless you walk around with a microscope. No, I don't think so. So you can't visualize them, but you can palpate them. You can feel them with touch. You can, even if you can't do it, a specialist can do it because somebody who has been trained, has the right touch, will know where to actually touch. So, for example, an expanded spleen can be palpated. It is palpable by your vet, but you as the owner, you can't see it. So it is very important again to go back to what I said earlier about the list of possible symptoms to get a better understanding of what the symptoms are and what to be on the lookout for. We'll be right back right after this. Welcome back, folks, to another edition, another section of the Sweetie Kiwi Show. We are just doing fantastic. We hope you are doing marvelous too. Are you? Are you? I'm sure you are. If you like this show, if you like the content that you're hearing so far, if you like the thorough research that the production team has done, please, just give us a big love. And I think basically a love here means just like the content. You want to share it, comment, spread the word, spread the wealth. Subscribe, support us, give us new topics, new content you want us to cover. We are always open. Now, before we move forward, I just want to quickly give a wonderful shout out. And today I'm just very happy because fans and viewers and listeners are just doing fantastic. They are marvelous. Lucas Burns in Winnipeg, Manitoba, Canada. We love you. Thank you so much for supporting us. You are wonderful. We've seen the pictures you sent us about your pets. They are just wonderful. We bless your family. Rowan Wilson in Brandon, again in Manitoba, Canada. Thank you so much for supporting us. We acknowledge you. Chloe Porter in Thompson, again in the great province of Manitoba, Canada. We love you. Lucas Burns, Rowan Wilson, Chloe Porter, and your respective families, thank you for the support. Now, let's jump right into this. In this program, we are discussing so far 10 damaging ways pet owners cause their dog to have cancer and leptospirosis without realizing it. The risks are high, as I said before, and unfortunately, sometimes those risks lead to acute morbidity and or death. To understand the risks, I have talked already about leptospirosis. I'm currently talking about canine cancer. Once I'm done with this, I will share with you the 10 ways that science says dog owners give cancer and leptospirosis to their fur babies by mistake. And you basically want to stick around because I'm going to also identify, and I'm also going to share with you the breeds that are more at risk. So research has shown that, like humans and other mammals, some dog breeds have stronger genes than others and are thus better positioned to fight off cancer, leptospirosis, and other acute conditions. So you want to pay attention to the weaker links, the more fragile, the more sensitive canine breeds, and determine whether your cutie pie is part of a strong breed or a weak breed. I mean, weak in the sense of their ability to fight off cancer and leptospirosis, right? So how do you diagnose canine cancer? Now, of course, this is sort of like the $1 million question of, you and I are probably not vets, so only a vet can accurately diagnose canine cancer. This is why it's just very important that you schedule, as I said earlier, those quarterly or health month, those biannual wellness exam for your cutie pie. So during those preventive exams, the vet can check a lot of things, can check the symptoms that I said earlier, and start a treatment program. Because once you have, the earlier you start, the better, the higher chances of recovery. So treating canine cancer before it advances is quintessential to successful healing and successful recovery. Now, there are a lot of treatment options for dogs with cancer. But what are the factors because before you treat a dog, you got to put the dog in a certain category, because the treatment category will depend on the demographic, if you will, the biology, the metabolism of the dog. So things like the age of the dog influence the cancer treatment decisions for dog. So before your vet decides to treat the dog, he or she will have to determine the age of the dog, the stage of the cancer, right? Are we in early stage or advanced stage? What is the biological behavior of the tumor? What is the metabolic profile of the tumor? What is the type of tumor? And most importantly, what is the general health of the dog? Because before, if you have a dog who is super active, chances are there are certain treatments that will be appropriate for that kind of dog than if the dog were, I would say, lethargic, right? But nobody wants to have a lethargic dog. Please don't tell me that your dog is lethargic. No dog should be lethargic. No. So the thing here is that the treatments for the dog for the cancer, it's basically analogous to the kind of treatments you see in humans. So this can include herbal therapy. So some people call it with the fancy word of holistic therapy. You have surgery. If, again, the cancer has not metastasized, then you can have surgery. You have radiation therapy and chemotherapy. So now scientists and vets are sort of, there is some kind of a lack of consensus really as to whether or not you should use one treatment or a combo of treatments to basically tackle a specific condition, a specific type of cancer. The most important thing here is that once you have, I hope your dog that doesn't have cancer, but if you have someone whose pet is currently undergoing some cancer treatment, it is important to know that sometimes when you combine those methods, it works pretty well. So it's always good to try and error, right? Adopt a trial and error approach. So if chemo doesn't work, you can sort of combine that with the radiation or holistic or herbal therapy. What's the bottom line here is that you want to choose, of course, with the approval, not really with the approval because you're not the one choosing. Your vet should be choosing. So under the tutelage of your vet, you make decisions that will affect your pet in a certain way when it comes to treatment, and always make sure that you ask for alternatives, right? Don't just go with one treatment, chemo, for instance, which is the sort of keyword for a lot of folks, a lot of pet owners when the pet is sick. But chemo is only one option. Like I said, there are other options. You have surgery, you have radiation therapy, and you have holistic or herbal therapy. We will be right back right after this. Welcome back, folks. I know you were waiting for this. This is the section you've been waiting for. I'm going to talk to you. I'm going to break it down for you. I'm going to show you the top 10 ways that pet owners unsuspectedly cause their dogs to get cancer. By the way, if you just joined us, this is the Sweetie Kiwi Show, the world's largest infotainment show. Infotainment. So you have information and you have entertainment. Today we are probably more on the information spectrum, a part of the spectrum. So we are trying to be a little serious here. or are we? Well, no, this is the serious part. So I'm talking about a very important and serious subject here, and this is how pet owners cause their dogs to have cancer or leptospirosis by mistake. And today, hopefully, we will stop this after they are done listening to us. Now, number one, and this is very important. So there are 10 ways, like I said, and this is the first way. Skipping your pet's annual checkup. This is a biggie. I don't even know where to start with this. This is such a big no-no, but a lot of people do this. You know, things happen, life happens, people get involved in things. They forget about their dog. They forget about their cutie pie. So you have 1 year pass by, 1 year goes by, 2 years, and the canine cutie pie, the fur baby, is not getting the appropriate treatment. And that's just unacceptable. And I want to really spend a lot of time on this, because this is, people sometimes forget that dogs are not people here. Your dog is not going to live 70 years or 80 years. So your dog is probably 10 years old. Your dog is already getting to seniority zone here. So the annual checkup is very important. And according to the Canine Journal, if you having your puppy checked at least once a year can help prevent and treat most life-threatening diseases such as cancer and leptospirosis. Let me repeat that. According to the Canine Journal, having your puppy checked up at least once a year can help prevent and treat most life-threatening diseases such as cancer and leptospirosis. So you have no excuse not to bring your pet to an annual checkup. Now, I personally believe that it is better to do this twice a year, but we'll just stick with what the specialists have said, which is once a year. But I think they even said at least once a year, right? So basically, the best practice here, at least what we have seen while researching for this show, what the production team has realized is that it is better to have your pet, your dog, checked up at least twice a year. Now, when you go to a checkup, right, a lot of things happen there. So the vet will ask you a few questions about your dog's overall eating and lifestyle habits. I just hope that this is something that because a lot of some pet owners sort of outsource the feeding and the lifestyle and the grooming of everything of their dog to somebody else, to an organization, for instance. So that's just not really the right things to do. But you want to have some kind of info about your dog. The pet will also take the vet will take care of the pet, right? So the vet will also take some measurements, including the dog's weight, the height. They will check their pulse. There are a lot of stuff that happens. Now, speaking of eating habits, speaking of eating and lifestyle habit, please, and this is a big please, do not tell me that your pet does drugs or drinks alcohol. Right? She doesn't, or he doesn't, right? I hope so. Now, this is very important. This is actually a topic for another show, another program, because believe it or not, there are a lot of stuff that happens when dogs and marijuana sort of combine. So I guess those two words, dog and marijuana, are just not a good combo here. But yeah. So by the way, before I forget, we produce a lot of wonderful shows, and what you want to do is quickly after watching or listening to this show, you want to go back to our database and look for other dog or other pet related shows that we've done. We also produce other shows that are related to pet insurance, lifestyle in general, that you would find valuable if you love this current content already. So the thing also to talk about here is that during the annual checkup, the vet will talk to you about the sleep patterns of the dog. If the dog has discolored poop, there are a lot of things that you can actually ask the expert, the specialist. Remember that you are actually paying for the visit, or probably the insurance company will cover it down the road, but you are paying for this, so you want to ask as many questions as possible. If your dog has things like, excessive barking or emotional instability, the vet will want to know that. Other things that the vet will want to know will include the exercise levels. The vet will check things like water and food consumption. I didn't say alcohol. The vet will sort of evaluate the dental health of your pet. So dental health really includes the status of teeth, the structural integrity of the teeth, but also the breath smell. The vet will check your pet for things like intestinal parasites, heartworms, mites, ticks, fleas. The vet will look into the coat and skin check, the coat and skin for things like hair loss, unusual spots, discoloration, rashes, lumps, and so on and so forth. Now, if your pet is having some kind of nose discharge or throat discharge or some kind of coughing, wheezing, sneezing, those things will be checked by the vet. Another thing that is very also important during the checkup is the evaluation of the digestive system of the pet. So the vet will look for things like if there are some concerns around gas or burping or abnormal stools. All those things are important. I spoke earlier about discoloration, so the same applies for urine. So the vet will check your pet's pee to see whether there's any kind of discharge or discoloration. Of course, you also have blood tests, particularly for older dogs, right? Because those are the breeds, or those are the dogs that are prone to more health problems. I think that's kind of analogous, that's kind of similar to humans too. So this is important. The vet will also check things like the vaccination status, the vaccination status for your pet. So the long list of vaccinations, depending on where you live, and the current status of each vaccination. So that's kind of really important. So in a nutshell, there are a lot of other stuff that the vet will ask you, depending on the breed that you have and your pet situation. I was just trying to give you here a very short preview of the sort of stuff the vet will ask you, and to reiterate to you the reason why the number one way you as a pet owner unexpectedly cause your dog to have cancer and leptospirosis is by skipping your pet's annual checkup. We'll be right back right after this. Welcome back, folks, to another section of your favorite show, the Sweetie Kiwi Show, the world's largest infotainment show. What are we talking about today? We're talking about the 10 ways the pet owners, by mistake, cause their dogs to have cancer and leptospirosis. So I gave you the very first major way that why am I using the you? That a pet owner, let's just try to remove the you out of this conversation, because I don't want to point a blaming finger at you here. I know you were a good pet owner, right? So basically, I said earlier that the number one way of causing your pet to have this sort of crazy diseases is by not bringing him or her to the vet for an annual checkup. The second way is smoking. Smoking heavily around dogs, this is a big no-no. Passive smoking could cause lung cancer. And everybody knows that this happens in humans. And we know that because humans live in the same environment and are exposed to the same pathogens as dogs, passive smoking could also cause lung cancer in dogs. So if you expose your pet to drugs and alcohol, this will lead him or her to drink and take harmful substances. And this is a big no-no. Before I even continue here, let me just quickly, because I think it's just so important to say that, I want to say that thank you for our beautiful and lovely fans and listeners and viewers, specifically Taylor Spencer in the UK. Perth is a city. Taylor, thank you so much for the tips you gave us, for the opportunity, for the suggestions you gave us around this topic. We really appreciated it. We saw the pictures of your lovely dogs, lovely, wonderful, beautiful cutie pie. Thank you so much. We want to give a shout out to Jude Jordan. Jude Jordan is also in Perth in the UK. Thank you so much. And the third person we want to give a shout out to is Isla Pearson. Isla Pearson and your family in Perth, the UK. We love you. We love you, love you, love you. Number 1, skipping annual checkup. Number 2, smoking heavily around dogs. Number 3, letting your dog play in all kinds of ponds, lakes, streams, or standing water. If you remember earlier, I told you that exposure to this sort of water bodies, specifically those sort of static water bodies, could cause a dog to be infected with leptospirosis, right? So letting your dog play in those kind of ponds, lakes, streams, or standing water is, I would say, not a good way to promote well-being for the dog. Now, let me ask viewers a very quick question. Do you have, if you are a pet owner, do you live around a pond? Do you have a stream, a lake nearby your residence? Do you have a standing water? And how do you actually manage the well-being of your dog around those static bodies of water? Comment below. Share the wealth, the intellectual wealth with the community, with the Sweetie Kiwi community. Let everybody knows how you handle those things on a daily basis, how you make sure that your canine cutie pie stays in good shape and good health. The fourth way that dog owners unsuspectedly cause their dogs to have cancer is cancer or leptospirosis, by the way, because those are the two diseases that are very important to us today. The fourth way is by giving the so-called highly nutritious commercial food or home cooked meal to their dogs. And I'm talking specifically about the commercial food or home cooked meals that lack phosphorus, vitamin D as in David, or calcium, right? So the food and the home cooked meals that lack calcium, vitamin D, and phosphorus, as everybody knows, is quintessential, is critical to bone strength and health, right? Earlier I was talking to you about a kind of cancer that affected the bones, osteosarcoma, I believe the name was. So basically, if the meals that you offer your cutie pie are lacking in phosphorus, you are paving the way to a lack of bone strength. In other words, bone weakness and bone diseases. The fifth way that a lot of pet owners, and believe me, there are more pet owners than you would want to think about, who unfortunately and unsuspectedly cause their pet to have cancer and leptospirosis. And the fifth way is by overfeeding your pet his or her favorite food. not a favorite show. Maybe Sweetie Kiwi is your pet's favorite show. Who knows? Are you listening to the show with him or her next to you? If you do, we are saying a big hi. Hi. Hello, hi. So, overfeeding your pet, he's a favorite food, it's not a good idea, especially during development when overeating causes lasting joint problems because dogs grow too fast. So you want to actually, again, and I think this sort of advice applies to humans too, right? You don't want to overfeed anybody or any living being, by the way, for that matter. So don't overfeed your pet his or her favorite food. The sixth way here is overprotecting your pet. So basically, some pet owners really are so overprotective that they do not allow their dog to have the adequate amount of daily exercise. Now, this is a kind of interesting topic because you see a lot of humans who say, well, I don't have time. I have work to do. I'm working 9 to 5 or 9 to 9, and I have to basically, after that, I just have to watch the Sweetie Kiwi show. Thank you, by the way. I don't have time to go to the gym, that kind of stuff, right? What we want to do here is to equate the metabolic status of dogs to the one that humans have and emphasize the fact that dogs need a certain amount of daily exercise. And maybe humans do too. I think they do, not maybe. I'm definitely sure they do. But as we're talking about dogs here is if you are overprotecting your pet and not giving him or her the adequate amount of exercise, what you're doing here is that you are paving the way for some kind of lethargy, which might, in a few weeks or months, which might lead to cancer or leptospirosis. I'm not linking the two here. I'm not positing a causal relationships here. What I'm just saying is that everything is linked. You might have a domino effect. So by overprotecting your pet, by keeping your pet indoors all the time and not allowing him or her to have the adequate amount of daily exercise, you might pave the way for something that you don't want to hear about in a few years. We'll be right back right after this. Welcome back, folks, to a wonderful wonderful section of the Sweetie Kiwi Show, the world's favorite show, infotainment show. If you like this comment so far, if you just believe that we are adding value to your life, just like us and we will love you back. Like the content, subscribe, share your experience, suggest other topics to us. We'll give you the info at the end of the show, and we'll certainly make sure that we give you a big shout out because you deserve this. And most importantly, I have a pro tip that I'm going to drop somewhere in the show, and I want you don't want to miss it because this is going to be a mind-blowing. It's going to help your pet live better. You're going to have better control of her or his well-being. Where were we? So number 7, the 7th way a pet owner is causing his or her pets to have cancer without realizing it is adding supplements to the dog's meal. So when you add supplements to the dog's meal, it creates a lot of things, especially if the dog's diet is already balanced and therefore it doesn't need any kind of additional supplements. This is really like some kind of tautology here, right? Because additional and supplement, normally supplement is already means adding. So, so don't add supplements to the dog's meal. Let me give you an example, right? You have some owners who provide omega-3 supplements to their canine cutie pie, even though the cutie pie doesn't need that. The thing is that according to the American Veterinary Medical Association, Omega-3 supplements are important to ensure it provides EPA, which is some kind of acid with an unpronounceable name here. It provides EPA, which is icosapentone, whatever. It's EPA, some kind of acid, and DHA. So you want to have those supplements provide EPA and DHA in sufficient concentrations, and the thing is that you don't want to have alpha linolenic acid because this is not efficiently metabolized to EPA and DHA in dogs and cats. What I'm trying to say here is that don't add supplements to the dog's meal if the dogs already have a balanced meal. Ideally, you want to consult a specialist so that you can find out exactly what kind of dietary restrictions or some kind of dietary guidelines apply to your particular breed, to the particular breed of the particular dog breed you have. The eighth way dog owners mistakenly or unsuspectedly expose their pets to leptospirosis and cancer is exposing the pet unintentionally to urine, right? And this particular one applies more to leptospirosis. So if you expose your dog unintentionally to urine from other infected animals, then you are increasing the chances of the dog being sick, right? And you could do this by letting the dog mingle with other dogs in shelters, as I said before, or in other pet care facilities where hygiene standards are not high. This is why it is very important before you drop your cutie pie, your canine companion somewhere, your canine cutie pie in a pet care facility, to check the hygiene standards. Usually the government officials direct those facilities to have a list of the safety guidelines that they follow, so you can actually check those before you drop your cutie pie there. You can also prevent your dog from catching leptospirosis by not letting him mingle with wildlife, right? I'm talking about animals like deer, opossum, raccoons, and rodents can actually, through direct or indirect contact with urine or through contaminated water, infect your dog. Another thing, and this is number 9 for those who are counting. Are you counting? Doesn't really matter, right? 1, 9, 3, 4. As long as you pay attention, that's all that I care about. So the number 9 way is exposing your dog too long to sunlight, right? So I understand it. You might want to get a perfect tan, but does your dog want to get a perfect tan? He or she probably has a perfect tan already. So exposing your dog too long to sunlight, especially in the summer, is a bad way. Is a surefire way actually to giving the dog some kind of skin cancer, right? Remember, we talked about a lot of cancer types here, and I mentioned skin cancer. There's another cancer that I spoke about that was, I think it was melanoma for the darker skin dogs. So the bottom line here is that you don't want to expose your dog too long to the to the sun, because if you do this, what will happen is that you have active sun X-rays, you have ultraviolet, visible light, and infrared particles that have a deleterious effect on the dog's skin. And research has shown that in the skin, Heme Angiosarcoma is caused by sun exposure. Remember that word I couldn't pronounce earlier? Heme Angiosarcoma. Right? Am I pronouncing this right? I am? Oh, cool. Okay, cool. Yeah, so basically this is the kind of stuff that you want to prevent when you keep your dog in a place where he or she can play but being shielded from active sun x-rays. The last thing here is, and this is very important also, is infrequent or poor foot or toe care. So basically not really taking good care of your dog. Incomplete grooming. Those kind of stuff lead to early warning of cancer, and you can have things like missing toenails, deformed toenails, sores that will not heal. You have swelling. You have other early warnings or early warnings of cancer. If you go back to what I said earlier about the symptoms, you can have a long list of course, this is not an exhaustive list, but a long list of things that you have to look at to make sure that your pet doesn't have poor foot or toe care. Because if your dog has foot or toe cancer, there are different types of symptoms, by the way. So you have something like for squamous cell carcinoma, you have the swollen toe or the foot sore or ulceration on the toe that will never heal. You know, you have those sort of disease, those sort of ulceration or sore that just don't want to go away. When you have something like this, make sure that you bring your pet to a vet. Sometimes you also have a crusted lump on the toe or the foot. You can have a deformed toenail. You can also have some kind of pain in the foot, so the dog is limping, unable to walk. Those are warning signs. For melanoma, you have some kind of symptoms. For instance, you have missing toenails, you have loose toenails. Sometimes the dog has swelling of the foot or toe. Again, you have a sore that will not heal, that just doesn't want to go away. You have some foot pain and an inability to walk, and the most damaging of all here is the loss of appetite. So the animal is losing energy, is becoming lethargic, is losing weight. Those things are bad. Now, another type of cancer we discussed earlier is osteosarcoma. Now, osteosarcoma, the symptoms usually they revolve around swelling, limping pain in the affected limb, right? For mast cell tumor, you have swollen toes. Sometimes you have swollen feet as well. You have the pain, some kind of pain, lingering pain in toes and feet. You have ulcer on the toes and foot, on the toes and feet. And sometimes you also have limping or deformed toenails. Now, what's really important here is that you want to understand that every type of foot or toe cancer has its own set of symptoms. But because you and I, again, are not, maybe you are, but I'm not a vet, the best course of action here is to bring your cutie pie to a specialist. We'll be right back right after this. Welcome back, folks. We are continuing our conversation, a beautiful conversation. I hope you are enjoying yourself here. I've given you the top 10 ways that pet owners are causing their dog to have cancer and leptospirosis without realizing it. Now, we're not finished, because this is getting even better here. I want to show you how certain types of breeds, and this is very important, you want to pay attention, because if your breed happens to be in that category, you want to take actions today. So certain types of breeds you can actually cause, unintentionally of course, cancer and leptospirosis in the breed you have, and this could lead to your dog's health. So I have 12 breeds that are a little bit on the weak side of the DNA spectrum, and those breeds need to be very, very you need to be careful when dealing with them. The first breed here is the Labrador Retriever. Now, this is, everybody knows this, who doesn't have a Labrador Retriever? I mean, I think the majority of my friends have a Retriever. So this is America's favorite dog, probably Australia's favorite dog too. By the way, if you have please comment below and tell us your favorite breed. And from the country where you're listening from, or the states where you're listening from if you are in the United States, or the province where you're listening from if you are in Canada, or the states where you're listening from if you are from Australia. Please tell us your favorite dog, and also the breed that is more popular, mostly popular in your area. Speaking of which, I want to quickly give a fan shout out to our wonderful viewers, listeners, and fans throughout the whole world, in North America and also beyond North America. I want to give a particularly vibrant shout out to Philip Schneider in Australia. Gold Coast, the city name is Gold Coast. That's a beautiful city name. Gold Coast, Australia. Philip Schneider and your family will remember you. We acknowledge you. Lane Duffy, also from Gold Coast, Australia. We love you. We acknowledge you. We recognize your contribution, your information, your support. And Nova Farrell, thank you so much for your support, for your commitment to the show. Nova Farrell and her family also are in Gold Coast, Australia. Thank you so much. Now, I was talking about the Labrador Retriever, which is America's favorite dog, right? This is a breed that is prized for just a wonderful, lovely nature, a nature immersed with very affectionate nature, and very high intelligence too. This is a dog that's very intelligent, and actually, I can second that. I've seen a Labrador's intelligence firsthand. So those kind of dogs are perfect family dogs, right? They are playful. They are always open. They are loyal. They are gentle. They are affectionate. The problem is, some health issues arise with this kind of energetic breed, right? Even though there are relatively few, because the pet gets plenty of daily exercise. But there are some conditions you want to be aware of. And one thing is that the under-exercised pets, those who are not playing and jumping around and wagging their tail as often as they should, I think even the under-exercised one always wag their tail, right? No? What? No, I'm not wagging my tail. Do I have a tail? I don't. So under-exercised pets, they are prone to weight gain, right? So they will gain weight very quickly, and they will have those sort of ancillary consequences of weight gain, some of which include risk of joint disease due to obesity, and you also have things like, so labs are really genetically prone to hip and elbow dysplasia. So other disease that you can have, that the Labrador can have, is the progressive retinal atrophy, which ultimately, if left untreated, can cause blindness. The next dog that is a little bit on the weak side here is the German Shepherd. Now, I know a lot of people think this is a strong breed, and I concur. The thing is that in every Goliath, you have a little David, right? You have a little in every aggressive breed, you also have a weak part. So the German Shepherd is America's favorite dog breed, even though it's called German Shepherd. They are exceptionally intelligent, and the good things with this kind of breed is you can easily train them, right? So they are usually used in security initiatives. So they excel at guard duty. The thing is, they require a lot of stimulation, and they require a lot of exercise. They require excessive amounts of exercise just to optimize their health and to maintain this sort of high, top-notch health. The thing is that German Shepherds are prone to genetic hip dysplasia, And this is some kind of deformation of the hip socket, right? And this could lead very easily to lameness and or arthritis. Now, degenerative myelopathy here is also a common condition among German Shepherd. Unfortunately, as of the day of this show, this disease is untreatable. And what happens is that it leads, unfortunately, to lethargy and ultimately to paralysis. Of course, the paralysis is gradual, it is progressive, but in the end, this is what happened. The third breed that I want to talk here is the Basset Hound. Now, I'm not really sure I'm pronouncing this right, but I'm not really familiar with this breed, although my producer, I believe, is familiar with how do you call this? Oh, nobody knows. Well, I'll just call it the Basset Hound. This is a very adorable dog. I'm looking at the picture here. I can see that it is a very adorable dog with droopy ears and sad sack eyes. But it's a very adorable dog. The thing is that the droopy skin may interfere with the vision with this kind of dog. So, and they have large floppy ears. For those who are familiar with this breed, you know what I'm talking about. And because the large floppy ears are so floppy, they are prone to infections. So they require regular inspection and cleaning. Grooming becomes very important, and cleaning becomes even more important. So hygiene must be part of the regimen you need to have if you own this kind of dog to maintain optimal health. And of course, this type of breed, they have an inclination for constant enthusiastic sniffing. And this is kind of easy because of their short legs. So the thing is that they can suffer from intervertebral disc disease, which is a disease of the spine. So this disease, if left untreated, can become very painful and make movement very difficult. The fourth breed that I want to talk to you about is the Jack Russell Terriers. Now, those are wonderful. The Terriers are wonderful, highly energetic. They're always playing around. They're wagging their tail. They're jumping around. They're playing. They're usually known for their overall good health, and they have a relative longer lifespan. I mean, but besides overall good health and longevity, you sometimes have the larger breed, which can live like up to 10 or 12 years. Some even live up to 14 and 16 years. They can be free of disease if they receive adequate and regular exercise. If they are not overfed, if they're kept away from the situations the locations that I talked about earlier, the static bodies of water, the standing water, the lakes, the rivers, if you keep them away from those conditions, they should be fine. Sometimes they inherit. So you have some genetic conditions that include lens luxation, which ultimately may result in loss of vision. The fifth animal here that I want to talk about, the fifth dog breed that I want to talk about is the Lhasa Apso. Some people call it Lhasa Apso, but I think it's Lhasa Apso. I'm not really quite sure here. I'm not familiar with I don't own that kind of pet, but I've heard a lot of people, and doing research for this show, we have seen that many folks and many news reports have said that the Lhasa is very robust. It is a breed that requires regular eye care, unfortunately, to maintain optimal health. Somehow his or her genes are not conducive to optimal eye health, so visual health, so you have to constantly care about the eye. You also, what happens in this kind of breed is that you might have constant tearing. You also have some runny fluid that needs to be cleaned from the eyes on a routine basis. And of course, please don't use any kind of fluid for that. You can clean it with isotonic solution. So this is mild salt water. You can buy this in major stores and supermarkets. So you have to clean the eyes with isotonic solutions on a regular basis. Now, another thing here is that the Lassa's long flowing coat requires extensive brushing, and you want to brush him or her regularly because you want to avoid snags and tangles, right? So this is kind of important too. And the dog is also prone to a form of genetic kidney disease. The last animal I want to talk about here is not the last. Who said the last? I'm just having fun. So we are here for another 10 hours. No, please don't leave. The Irish Setter. The Irish Setter is a great breed. It is very popular. Although lately, in the last 10 years, their popularity and their appeal has been waning. The Irish Setters are still ranked among the top 10 breeds when it comes to affection, when it comes to loyalty, when it comes to playfulness. The thing here is that an Irish Setter can experience a variety of conditions, including bone cancer, bloat. You have progressive retinal atrophy. You have hip dysplasia and epilepsy. Nonetheless, this is a lovable redhead that is very, very hardy, very strong. But those diseases must be taken into account, especially if you're trying to have a nice, strong health regimen to prevent cancer and you want to prevent cancer and other kind of diseases. It is very important, so I think leptospirosis really is not that major if you are not living close to a body of water, or you are keeping you are preventing your pet from mingling with other dogs. That shouldn't be a big problem. We'll be right back right after this. Welcome back, folks. We are still going over the important things, the important breeds to know when it comes to cancer and leptospirosis. And I've first gave you the first 6 breeds that are a little bit on the weak side of the DNA spectrum. Now I want to give you the last 6 that you need to sort of think about it, especially if you're thinking about buying a new breed or adopting a breed, or you currently have a breed. There are major things that you need to pay attention to. Now, the Yorkshire Terrier. Now, this breed has an outsized personality, right? So you have an outsized personality, but in an undersized package. The thing is that Americans and Canadians, by the way, and again, if you whatever you're listening from, please drop us a note in the comment section. Tell us if you love Yorkies. But Americans and Canadians love Yorkies. They are, according to some recent reports, these Yorkies are the 3rd most popular breed in America. So they have 10 coats, silky, sometimes they can be silky blue. They have entitled terrier attitude, right? They love their posture, they love their roles as miniature divas. And they are divas, by the way. If you don't believe me, just look at the picture. The problem is, even though they are divas, they are prone to digestive problems. Therefore, you want to monitor really their diet carefully. You want to thoroughly vet everything those cutie pie are eating. So you want to look at things that you want to look at the tongue, the throat. And sometimes when they have problems, you have, cough, and this cough can be exacerbated by a color. You also have some kind of liver malfunction and some toxins that accumulate in the blood. Another oh, this is my favorite, a Dalmatian. The next one is the Dalmatian. Dalmatian is really it's just a gentle and hardy and very, very patient breed, right? They are very famous for their association, for their linkage with firemen, right? Of course, they also have very popular in Disney movies. What? Of course, I mean, I've seen them a lot in a lot of movies, in a lot of animations. I can't recall exactly which ones, but the Dalmatians is a popular breed. The most common genetic defect in this breed is deafness. They are prone to deafness, unfortunately. And a lot of reputable breeders are working at the moment to eradicate the problem. But chances are this might take some time before they have a workable solution. So deafness is the number one issue that Dalmatians have. They also tend to develop kidney or bladder stones. So kidney or bladder stones. And this condition is called urolithiasis. So this is a common problem that requires a special diet. Or sometimes you just need surgery. So talk to your vet and he or she will probably let you know whether your canine companion needs to have surgery. Now, Cocker Spaniel is also a wonderful breed that one of my friend has, and these breeds are known for their flowing coats, and of course they're very expensive. They're very, very expensive, and taking care of them, grooming them can be expensive. Now, Cocker Spaniels require frequent bathing and brushing because they have a long hair, right? So you want to keep their long hair free of tangles. They are unfortunately susceptible. They are prone to eye disorders, including things like glaucoma, cataracts, and some even have they're prone to liver disease, heart disease, epilepsy, and you need to, and this is a big one. This is very important. You want to make sure that you clean regularly their ears. And you want to do that to prevent ear infections. The 11th pet that I want to talk about, the breed I want to talk about right now is the pug. Now, the pug, everybody knows the pug, even though you don't really know it is a pug. You've seen it around, or you've seen her around. Now, they are familiar with their flat, pushed-in face, right? They are generally a healthy breed that has a long lifespan. Sometimes you can see them live like 14, 16 years. Now, of course, they have a flat front. Their flat-fronted face is part of the charm, really, right? It can unfortunately leads to breathing problems. Of course, everybody who owns a pug knows that they are very notorious at snoring at night. But another thing that has been seen in animal studies is that they develop a condition that makes them difficult that makes it difficult for them to breathe in hot weather and humidity. So they have difficulty breathing in hot weather and humidity. Now, the pug really prefers living as a house companion, so they're not really interested in going out, and they steer clear of extremely hot or cold temperatures. However, it is very important to know that you want to provide mild or a little bit more than mild exercise to this breed. So moderate exercise is very important, and because the pug tends to be overweight, you want to make sure that he or she exercises periodically, just to prevent some kind of health conditions down the road. The last breed that everybody knows, and this is I think this one is the world's #1 breed, actually. Not just America's breed, but the globe. She is just a global champion. The Chihuahua. Now, of course, I mean, the Chihuahua was made famous by the Taco Bell commercials, right? Everybody has seen those ads, those Taco Bell ads. It is a very tiny breed, right? Usually weighs in around 6 pounds or less. Personally, I've seen a Chihuahua weighing 3 pounds. 4 years ago, I've seen a Chihuahua weighing 3 pounds in China. So this is just, but it's a cutie pie. It's just a canine cutie pie. You just want to hold him or her. Just, it's a gentle breed that will pair very well with an equally gentle owner, right? Which is very important. No aggression towards animals here. And they tend to live very long, very, very long. I'm talking 15 years, and in some cases 18 years, compared to their peers. Of course, the Chihuahua has their own compilation of health problems, health concerns, right? You have things like arthritis, you have cardiac and eye disease, which is very, very important. So you want to really pay attention to those conditions so that you are able to catch them early on. Last but not least, the Chihuahua was the 11th, not the 12th, but the last but not least is the Boxer. Now, the Boxer, as the name implies, it is a highly athletic breed, right? And basically, legend has it that the Boxer has acquired its name from the way it uses its front paws for nearly every activity. And, it gives the impression that it is batting at objects as if sparring. So it is a very compact and muscular breed, right? It is very strong and sturdy. However, it is also prone to a host of conditions. So heart-related and thyroid problems, as well as skin allergies. Research has also showed that this breed can have medical concerns such as cancer, leptospirosis, bloat, and elbow dysplasia. So this is basically a roundup of the 12 popular but also a little bit weak breeds that you want to pay attention to when it comes to cancer and leptospirosis, of course, but also for other diseases. We'll be right back right after this. Welcome back, folks, to the Sweetie Kiwi Show, a wonderful show. We're trying to real quickly wrap up this show today. I'm very happy to have you. We have had a great conversation, a very useful conversation about how to prevent unintentional cancer and leptospirosis in our dogs. And I want to give a wonderful shout out to our viewers, listeners, and fans in Germany, which is really interesting. Never knew that we were followed in Germany, but I'm giving a shout out to Eckhard Schlechter in Mannheim, Germany. Is my German good enough? I'm trying. Eckhard Schlechter in Germany, Mannheim. Josephine Pfisterer in Mannheim, Germany, of course. And Günther Kruger in Mannheim, Germany. Thank you so much for your support. We appreciate it. Of course, we want to thank our viewers and fans in North America and the rest of the world. You are marvelous. Continue to help us. Please share, like, subscribe, comment. If you have any info, any insight about pet welfare and dog welfare, dog well-being, dog grooming, please share it. We want to share the intellectual health here. This is intellectual wealth here. This is very important. And you don't want to miss the pro tip I'm about to give, because this will completely change your the way you take care of your pet. So please stick around for this wonderful content. Now let's quickly recap what we've talked about. So in the last few minutes, I have talked to you about leptospirosis in dogs. I have talked to you about cancer in dogs, right? I've talked to you about the 10 ways that pet owners unsuspectedly cause their dogs to have cancer, which is very important. The 10 ways, very quickly, because this is very important. Skipping your pet's annual checkup, smoking heavily around dogs, letting your dog play in all kinds of ponds, lakes, static bodies of water, adding so-called highly nutritious commercial food or home-cooked meal to your dog diets, overfeeding your pet his or her favorite food, overprotecting your pet and not allowing her or him to exercise appropriately, adding supplements to the dog's meals, exposing your dog unintentionally to urine, of course, urine that is infected by other urine of infected animals, exposing your dog too long to sunlight, and providing infrequent or poor foot or toe care to your dog. Now, it is very important to also understand that you want to exercise extra caution if you own any of the breeds that I mentioned, the 12 breeds that I mentioned, because of the fact that they are a little bit on the weak side when it comes to the DNA protection, to the DNA spectrum. And the breeds that I mentioned are, drumroll, the Labrador Retriever, the German Shepherd, the Basset Hound, the Jack Russell Terrier, the Lhasa Apso, the Irish Setter, the Yorkshire Terrier, the Dalmatian, the Cocker Spaniel, the Pug, and the Chihuahua, but also the Boxer. So those are the 12 breeds that you want to pay attention to. Of course, I'm not saying that they are weak. I'm just saying that you want to pay extra attention when dealing with them. Now, this is the recap. I just want to give you a quick call to action here, because I love talking about dogs. I love dogs. I can talk about this for hours and hours here. But what's important here is that after listening to this kind of content, you want to take action. It is very important, and you want to take action because your pet might be at risk of cancer right now. Right now, at this very moment that I'm talking to you, your pet might be at risk of cancer. So I want to make sure you have proper pet insurance. This is a call to action. This is the first call to action for this show. Make sure you have proper pet insurance. Do a one-time checkup now to ensure everything is fine. Feed a high-quality diet. Research has shown that pets that are fed a high-quality diet have a shiny hair coat, bright eyes, and healthy skin. Keep your pet lean. Lean meaning exercise, good food, happiness, playing around, jumping around. Take your pet to the vet regularly. You want the pet to know the first name of the pets. No, you want the vet to know the first name of the pet. You want to keep your pet's mouth clean. And most importantly, never allow your pet to roam unsupervised. This is it. This is everything you need to know for this content. What? The pro tip. Pro tip here. Okay, here is a pro tip. Well, no, I'll give you the pro tip right after this. I'm very happy to still have you around here. And the pro tip for today's show is it's very, very important. You want to get comprehensive pet insurance if you can afford it. This is very important. And I'm not talking about having just regular pet insurance. You want to have comprehensive pet insurance. That way you have complete peace of mind. Now, comprehensive pet insurance is sometimes called nose to tail pet insurance. So it covers everything from accidents to illnesses, dental illnesses. They cover breed specific and genetic conditions. Remember I was telling you about certain breeds being weaker? You want to cover that. If you have a breed that is on the weak side of the DNA spectrum, you want to get comprehensive insurance. Comprehensive insurance covers cancer and it covers cancer. Sometimes it can also cover leptospirosis, but cancer is the most important thing here. Chronic conditions are covered. What are the treatments that are covered by comprehensive pet insurance? You have alternative therapies and rehab, emergency vet care, diagnostic testing, behavioral therapy, specialist care, hospitalization and surgery, and I can go on and on and on. Diagnostic testing, mobility devices, hospitalization surgery, prescription drug coverage. So the bottom line here is that comprehensive pet insurance really gives you, as I said before, complete peace of mind. And even better, the examination fees are covered. So the vet fees are covered. Think about it. Thank you. Have a great time. You are marvelous. Thank you for following us. Drop us your comments, like, subscribe if you like this kind of comment, share, and remember, be marvelous. Thank you.